Hello, everybody. It is in Germany 7 o'clock. In the other areas of the world, we have our guest from New England, which is pretty close to the Boston larger area. We have my friend Thomas, still in the area of Lodge, Seattle, Redmond, and Chicago with Marshall. So the different time zones are clear. Me coming from larger Frankfurt area, a small town, unknown to everybody, but you will love it if you see it. Now, this was the introductory part, Andy, which was a bit of variety of the usual one, such as I'm very grateful that a company we all learned about partner events and virtual stuff in the last 2 years, which was known to me as BPM Online, and suddenly a very old, close chap I know, Barton Goldenberg, was doing some webinars with you, and I said, these guys are in a cool product area. Interesting. And at a sudden, same face, new label, I found one of your technical guys in a webinar talking about what Creatio can deliver. And then I was really surprised. Now, Andy, thank you very much that you followed our invitation and that you are with us today. And we are extremely curious. So is our audience. And I would like to know a bit more about you, Andy. What is your background? What have you done before becoming a promoter and protagonist of Low Code and No Code with Creatio? Floor is yours.
So very briefly about myself, to be honest with you and with full disclosure, I don't like talking about myself a lot, so I will keep it. Yeah, I will keep it brief. So overall, I have been with the company for 12 years. I started career in Europe, and my first role was a sales rep for SMB market. My first deal was $300 of recurrent revenue. Since that time, I changed multiple roles in mostly in sales. So I traveled the world. I landed in the US about 6 years ago, and the former role I had was chief of sales for EMEA and APAC regions. And about 6 months ago, I moved to a new role, which is chief of growth. I'm responsible for everything that helps to promote and build a brand and awareness for the organization. I'm responsible for top of the funnel and all the needed support for the sales organization, like everything related to top of the funnel, sales enablement, pre-sales engineering. And also things like PR, AR, thought leadership engines, those kind of things are falling within my category. I love the space very much. So I spent because I on purpose decided to dedicate a lot portion of my career into CRM. I really enjoyed learning about the space, but also now I'm super happy to see that we as a company evolving, we as a technology we're evolving. So the way how we define Creatio now is that we are a vendor of one platform to automate industry workflows and CRM with no code and a maximum degree of freedom. So you can see that within our positioning, we are located in the intersection of three major product categories or technologies. From one hand, we have a strong emphasis on CRM and custom automation. On the other hand, we work a lot with workflow automation. And of course, we use no code as enabler of this, right? So it's not kind of a pure platform play. It's a strong platform that can solve for multiple needs for multiple industries, but also we have powerful, ready-to-use applications built on the top of this platform.
Wow.
All right.
Not to digest.
That is a powerful opening statement. That's
Boom. I just wanted to step a bit back. What did you do before you joined Creatio?
Well, I worked, surprisingly, I graduated from psychology university. So I'm a psychologist and psychotherapist by degree, which I found a little bit boring profession for myself. But I really enjoyed learning that kind of body of knowledge. And I worked as a child psychologist for a bit. Then I worked in HR function in a large Germany-based company called Rehau. It's a manufacturing. Yeah, it's a
Cool.
manufacturing. That's where I learned a bit of German language because German was kind of a corporate language there, but now I forgot. And then I moved to Croatia.
That's interesting. And interesting by this that you have an unfair advantage being a psychologist, that you know very much attitude in sales and can predict, let's say, behavior a bit better than somebody who's not specifically trained.
I'm not sure about that because, look, I do have certain skills, as everyone does from their education. But right now I'm probably much more a business person than a psychologist. And now my wife, she does psychology, but every time when I talk to her and try to maintain a conversation, I don't believe I know a lot.
But
I would better talk CRM and low code now.
Just out of curiosity, does a psychology degree help in sales?
Yeah, it does. So specifically when you're starting a career, when you're trying, everything in regards to building relationships and certain aspect of psychology certainly helps because it helps with interactions, communication, empathy, understanding another party, and being able to kind of use that knowledge to be more efficient. But it's not only about psychology. I would not say that all my kind of peers and friends that are graduated from the same university would be great salespeople and vice versa.
It is simply that one of my dedicated ambitions in training and in all that area is focused to neuroscience, that it goes to limbic and a lot of these to understand customer expectations, or my other side talking head or guest or whatsoever, that it is in the typical sales or consulting situation that you like to know what might be happening a bit earlier than it is happening. Predictability is one of the things what some could earn. What I like in your introduction was not only the dynamic and the span, but that you started with being honest and proud with a small deal, and that you have a heart for the small medium business. And I love that because I know how important it is from bottom up to grow something like a plant.
Yeah, so right now we work mostly with mid-sized and large organizations, but I miss working with SMBs because the kind of time to change or time to value with those organizations is relatively quick. There are lots of kind of chaotic movements, whether you like it or not, in SMB. But what I loved about working with SMB back in the day is that, at the time when you kind of introduce a new tool or change or a new process to actual implementation and execution is very short, which is lacking in some enterprises. But I think that right now, majority of enterprises want to act like SMBs, and there are lots of kind of transformations focused on that.
SMB is kind of related to being nimble in contrast to enterprise, which are static, slow tankers, super tankers.
True.
Is that image true, or does it work for the bigger ones?
Sorry, Kama.
Does it work to become more nimble by thinking of being smaller for those bigger ones?
Yeah, well, what I've seen from large organizations is that first, right now, some of those companies, they treat their departments as kind of SMBs or different business lines, and they allow for more power for decision making, allow for more flexibility, and they kind of organizations within a large organization. I've seen that approach, but also I've seen lots of different initiatives focused on accelerating this leadership from the bottom, ability to make those decisions, ability to take risk, kind of on all layers. That's what we've seen with some of our customers from kind of enterprise segment. And of course, in regards to ability to be nimble and change, that's the reason why I'm so excited and focused on no code specifically, because this brings lots of nimble capabilities and ability to be agile and move fast. I think that in general, it's super important for organizations to act fast and to make fast decisions, specifically if they want to be in the market for a longer time, because right now there's so much disruption coming in all sorts of industries. To think about each industry or vertical, there is no vertical that is not kind of attacked with those digital newcomers, right? You think about financial services, or you think about even an entertainment, right? We now can attend a concert or can participate in a massive event without leaving our couch, right? So, and each industry and each vertical is kind of under risk, and I think it's super important for even those big organizations that control the entire markets still be in a position when they need to act and they need to innovate now, not waiting until the new Uber or whatever the technology would be comes to their market.
Marshall, I think you breathed, and you took some breath, and then
It does happen.
I was faster.
No, it does happen from time to time.
Good.
I was actually going in more or less the same place that you were regarding the small and medium business effect of how larger businesses treat their smaller organizations. So now I'm trying to reformulate that question in a way that isn't going to waste our time. Tricky. Somebody else take this.
Okay, let's give you some thinking room, because if I understood you and your colleagues right in the past release, the vision that you basically have is there is no low code. So let's start from the basics, because what I guess is that if the four of us define what no code and low code are, you are getting four definitions that at best have an overlap. So yours probably is the most, the best one. So how do you define those two areas, and especially how do you distinguish between them? Where does one start and stop?
So I need to make a disclaimer because the market is still forming. So it's difficult to say that like I have a definition, and it was the same. It was very funny with CRM. I remember that once when we went to CRM Evolution, actually, Marshall and I met at some of those events, and the entire industry was starting to use a term CX, and every CRM player was moving to like, we are not now a CX platform, we're now not a CRM platform, and or at some point it was XRM, right? Because it goes beyond CRM. So I think that we all lived through lots of changes and lots of definitions, and it's gonna be changing. So I think that's the expectation. That's why like in our organization we kind of made a deliberate decision to agree that we're gonna use this terminology because we believe this is the best way to explain that. But also we agreed that we're gonna be flexible in case the environment changes. So I guess I'll start with the definition of the market itself. It moved from like initially we had this kind of a lot of technology that had extensive customization capabilities, and people start using those customization capabilities to configure all sorts of different solutions. Like even back in Siebel days, you know that Siebel was a very customizable product, and people were customizing all sorts of different solutions using their workflow engine and the customization capabilities. And I think the need always existed that businesses needed all sorts of different applications, but the capability was not there. With that kind of ability to customize grew into a market, like from like being a capability, grew to a market of low code and no code tools where you can use visual design tools to create a business application. So, and that's actually a turning point when we stop thinking about customization as a capability and we start thinking with an application in mind. Every time when I think about like, I need some visual tools or some configuration tools to move to an application, that's the point when we start talking about a low code and no code markets. Now, if you think about like low code, like all possible tools that can get you there, because even before Siebel or in parallel with Siebel, we still have a huge market of custom development, where you can hire a bunch of developers that can create a solution from scratch. But the capacity of those people that can create those applications is very limited. And also ability to maintain and scale the solution is limited as well. So you kind of merit to a team that has created that, and you kind of embed it to that support and all the service that you can receive from there. And of course, people don't want it. And the idea behind low code and no code is to tap into much larger capacity of people that are not necessarily technical or technical to a point, that can create and customize those solutions and make them available for business users. Now, that's where low code and no code kind of splits, because low code as a technology is mostly focused on more technical people, either professional developers or people with a strong technical background, because they allow you to combine code and no code in a kind of quite big aspect. And with that in mind, they're mostly focused on significantly increasing productivity of those developers, right? You can do stuff much quicker than with custom development, and you can use robust toolkit for that. No code is more focused on a knowledge worker, or let's say a business developer, someone without a technical skill who can use those visual tools to create their own application. Now, we believe that those markets will eventually merge, because the biggest problem that low code and no code markets are solving is the problem of capacity. We have a limited amount of technical people that can create those applications. We need a hell of a lot of applications. We need to automate everything, and the level of penetration of this technology is relatively low. So the only way how we can move to the digital future quickly is to enable everyone to be a developer. So that ability to cover a very wide range of developers is kind of essential to achieve that goal. So that's why our expectation that those markets will merge. We purposely focused on no code, not because we don't have development tools. We do have a lot of development tools that allow professional developers to customize and configure on Creatio, but we are focusing our messaging and the product development on the ability for non-technical people to create applications for themselves, right? For example, here in Creatio, I'm an owner of multiple applications that we use internally, and I am a part of a no-code development tool that kind of manages development of those applications. And I have certain kind of responsibilities that even I do in those applications. And that's actually the kind of the expected result when non-technical people, business people, can go to a platform and create whatever applications they need without a dependency on technical resource. But then this development has a lot of different questions related to governance and administration, because it's the same like with democracy. You give this freedom to lots of people, but of course, in democratic society, you need to have guardrails and governments and controls and checks and balances to make sure that this democracy can provide value and this freedom can be enjoyed, but not create some dangerous and anarchic society. So the same with the no code. I think that right now the capability is available, and majority of vendors, majority of leaders, thought leaders in the space focus on making sure that people that are not technical, that are much wider as a population, can use safely this technology and enjoy the benefits of digital transformation.
That's just about perfect, because something I was planning to ask a little bit later in the show was involved the education system, and how for the past many years schools have been moving towards putting a lot more emphasis on teaching students the value of coding and programming. And I'm wondering how, as the future starts to fill up with adults who are more, say, code literate, how is that going to affect Creatio and the broader industry, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question, Marshall. I think that there are a couple of caveats to that. So the first one, we do believe that, and we actually see already a lot of proof that a no-code developer or a citizen developer is already a profession. You go to Glassdoor and some other websites, and you can see there are lots of publications already for citizen developer. We do have customers, and a big amount of those that are hiring for no-code development or they kind of moving people from the existing staff to be a part of this no-code center of excellence. So it's becoming a profession, and more we go to the future, the more no-code developers will see in organizations, and there is a big demand. We can talk more about that, but there is a big demand towards that. So it's creating a completely new employee market that is now becoming very hot, because people will need more and more of those. Because you look at salaries of professional developers in San Francisco, and you think about why didn't I make that career decision 10 years ago? Because it's going crazy. It's going crazy. Not that we have something to do against professional developers, absolutely not. But of course, we need to have more abilities to delegate less complicated tasks to people without deep technical knowledge. So, and then, of course, this change in the employment market will make a change to educational market, because we now cooperate with dozens of universities where Creatio is being used as a platform to train those no-code developers. We have a full-blown university program, and we have a lot of plans to extend it, because like creating future no-coders is a very important mission and task, because the market is not ready for that. But I think that in 3-5 years, we will see a big boom and a big exposure to those types of technology. And actually, that is coming from a real need from organizations.
Wow.
Great.
No, that's actually no code and low code. Not just because I work in that space, but if you think about possible implications of expansion of this technology and the need, we anticipate this revolution to be as big as, for example, cloud computing. Because when cloud computing was starting back in the day, no one expected it to be the thing, right? So and it was an ongoing debate, what will be a combination of cloud computing, and there was a kind of this motion cloud computing will never go to enterprise. It's it will stay with smaller markets, etc. Now the same kind of trend we observe in no code and low code, and we expect the level of kind of change will be either equal or even more, because amount of people that will be kind of influenced with that is huge.
Right, well, cloud computing had its own obstacles to overcome, most notably bandwidth and the cost of storage. What sort of, other things had to change for that industry to succeed. What other things have to change for low code, no code to explode the way we're hoping it will?
Well, first of all, is combination of methodology. For example, you have, imagine a situation you are a large enterprise, and you can easily assign 100 no-code developers or even more, and then they will go and create 100 applications in a month or so, and then the chaos will begin, because those applications need to talk to each other. Those applications cannot expose some critical data. If we talk about, for example, customer data, there are lots of security, compliance, other regulations that you need to manage. So governance and administration is a big hot topic. And actually here at Creatio, we work on a special project. We are writing a book now, but also we invest a lot of energy and manpower into creating a vendor agnostic methodology and a no-code playbook that will teach professionals how to set up that no-code practice and process and team in a secured way. Because this is an important component. And secondly, it's just a matter of sharing skills and being able to fulfill this need with the capability. But to be honest with you, I think that capability already exists. Right now, you can do hell a lot with no-code workflow automation and technology, and we see that from our customers, from our partners. People, for example, we have a government of one country that has right now more than 5,000 of users communicating in kind of dozens of different municipalities and governmental institutions, and all of that has been built by no-code team, and they're making decisions on kind of billion infrastructure projects using our technology, and there is no professional developer who touched that application. So we now see, and this is governmental level. So we now see the confirmation and proof that this is possible. That's the reason why we're so confident that this will be growing very aggressively in the future.
talking a bit about Marshall.
No, it's just saying impressive.
Yeah.
Talking
Please.
a bit about the guardrails that you just mentioned.
Mhm.
When one of the early things that come to mind when you are thinking no code and low code is Lotus Notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there you have the ability, or well, this was one of the early tools to give authority to end users to create applications.
I
To
hate
some
Lotus
extent, yeah.
Notes.
So whether they have been good or not, let's not discuss that. The point is they had it and they used it. And
Yeah, and
the
it's
result was a graveyard, a dump bin of unused applications. So how to avoid this risk?
Well, I think that ability, like with Lotus Notes and with the technology, it was a technology that was kind of the idea was too good for its age, right? Because the capability wasn't there, and there were lots of different and actually the need for those applications wasn't there. Right now, like if you think about digital transformation in general, right? So we need, based on the number of predictions, we need to create 500 million of new applications within the next couple of years, and this is the actual need of.
Forrester study, yeah. It was Forrester, I think it was
it's
IDC.
It's IDC study. Also, there were some notes from KeyBank. So, but we're talking about hundreds of millions of new applications. If you go to and you think about the landscape of large organizations with how many applications they have, and more importantly, like how many stuff they do manually, how many stuff they do in Excel or Access databases, and stuff that kind of cannot exist in 2022, a lot. So the need for applications is huge, and someone needs to fulfill that need. So that's why I think that the concept of Lotus Notes was great. I think that technologically and business-wise, we were not ready to use that technology, but now it's like all the market predictions show us that we are ready, and the market is booming. Like even in this year, Gartner predicts 64% of growth for low-code application markets, and the market will hit 5.8 billion, and this is just kind of tip of the iceberg of possible exposure.
But still, how to put those guardrails into place? Because if people have the power and the authority, well, you gave a great answer to a question that would have come. You preempted it.
That was never asked.
The risk that I do see, and I really see it as a risk, is people have the authority, they have a need. Well, and as we see it in the notes scenario, they'll use it. And this is to one extent good because they get their things solved because they can solve them themselves. But then you have this graveyard of potentially wasted time because Marshall does something that Ralph already did and I do it a third time. So
correct, and that's why it needs a coordination. So what you get with the right technology is freedom to go and create whatever application you need. But as we're talking about guardrails, you need to have a program that manages this, right? So when we think about like a program and methodology, like for example, start with building up a center of excellence. Do you have like a center of excellence for no-code development? And do you know, is there like a standard way for you to hire, on board, and enable your no-code developers? Like, do you have can Marshall create an app? Do we authorize Marshall to create an app? Probably yes, we do, but we need to make sure that Marshall. We need to make sure that Marshall kind of has enough of knowledge, and if he creates an app, this app can serve for example, things like UI and UX design, even with no-code tools, or things like a workflow automation. It requires certain skill set and certain way of solving problems. So ability for us to select, understand, and consolidate this no-code practice is super important. And then is a methodology on how we ideate, how we think about creating new applications, how we authorize them, when and at which point we decide that we want to have this application, or probably Marshall has an application, but he just doesn't know about its existence that can solve his need with someone else, and it's not a new application, but we need to configure the existing one to accommodate for his need. So we should have a body that makes those decisions and governs this process. And then once we authorize, we need to make sure that we have the right team assembled. Can Marshall by himself, based on the complexity analysis, can Marshall by himself create this application, or Thomas and Ralph need to be involved? Do we need some exposure to data? Who needs to sign off on the application that has been created? Does it need to go through security check? Does it need to go through, say, compliance check? What type of data are we touching with that application, and who else needs to be exposed? So we need to have organizational layers and process beneath to manage this process. So to address the question, Thomas, if we just allow people to create a graveyard of application, it will be as a graveyard, and no one, like, probably it will be a small population of people that can benefit from those applications. But if you have the full-blown program and methodology, and that's the reason why methodology is probably even more important than technology itself, to a point, then you have a organizational capability to make no code your strategy. Because if you can embrace it, if you can take this concept and go about creating a majority of your applications using this approach, this means that you can create more applications and you can go to the digital future much quicker than your competition, which means that you're getting your competitive advantage by enabling this organizational capability.
Yeah, maybe graveyard isn't the word we're looking for.
Yeah, it's a
library.
Library.
Well,
then it becomes a library and not a graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, if it's easy to create applications, it is easy to accidentally recreate somebody's work. And therefore also easy to take somebody's work and alter it so that, you've already got the work mostly done. You just need it to your needs.
What Andie mentioned is that it needs a librarian at least who is guarding and gardening to a certain degree and gives you some framework. And the other thing is that if we take it serious, the doing an app twice, or what we had as the jungle, as people were capable of at a sudden doing some smartphone apps very easily, very quickly, and even in SAP, that was a movement, you could call so, that it got a bit out of control, and all the happiness that people in the US were creating extremely useful stuff, which was small, neat, fast, quickly. It was quick and dirty. And nobody was looking if the next release would fit into the scenario again. That is the day I foresee that by all the enthusiasm, it needs a little guidance and a librarian, as I call it. So I'm not much in the graveyard section. I'm much in the library section, in the make it easy, make them happy, and gives them not only a toy to play, but something where they can, what they do these days in marketing automation tools, when they create such a customer journey, or when they create a marketing campaign with all these decisions the recipient might take or not take. That's the way I understood from the old days, when I not only C++, Basic, Pascal, COBOL and all this, but I was working in Eclipse frameworks. And I said, guys, I'm more the visual type. So I see that things are getting fast forward. And with that movement coming to the landscape a bit, not only the ability and the guarding and the guidance, but also who else is in that fantastic environment and wants to serve the 50 million apps which are needed in the rear and near future.
500.
Yeah, there are a couple of 500 million. To some conservative predictions. There are a couple of things that you mentioned that I wanted to comment on, and then I'll come back to different roles. First, I think that market automation is a great example because, like, if you think about market automation, people don't customize a lot market automation, but they reuse components. and they reuse different types of things into a flow that is unique to their business. Which brings me to a point of a big trend in the no-code development that's called composable enterprise or composability, where, for example, here at Creatio, we do a lot of work related to creating components of different types. For example, it can be components for a certain verticals. Like if you think about financial services and you want to automate a customer onboarding or say another process, we have hundreds of different templates and ready-to-use applications that you can use to assemble your application, and you can kind of reuse those components and say, like, I need, like, let's take a practical example of claim management and insurance, right? So to create a claim management process in insurance, you need customer record, you need claim record, you need a workflow, you need probably some documents, and you need some integrations with e-signature, you need some other objects. So Creatio provides this library of those objects. So a no-code developer will not necessarily create the new claims object from scratch, but they will be using ones that is provided that can be configured and customized, which means that the overall development process is much more in control, and which means that you can reuse and enjoy what has been already created. And we have also a number of mechanisms that recommend use those components. And we also can use those components on micro level. Like if you think about a page designer, right? So we have a lot of different page level components saying that if you want to create a page design for, say, a customer record, those are possible views and templates that you can utilize in your development process. So there are like composability is kind of multi-layered approach when you can use it as you're building your application, as you're building your workflow, or even you're building an element of this application. So that is super helpful. Coming back to your question, there should be multiple roles. So we will have lots of dedicated sessions. Now we will be hosting a big event in Chicago on 26th and 27th of May. If you guys want, and the audience want to attend, feel free. It's free event in Chicago. We're going on site, and we'll have like an entire 2 days dedicated to this particular idea. But to keep it short, it should be a role of yeah, it's a commercial. So we have a role of no-code architect, a person that makes a decision in regards to the overall architecture, who assesses complexity of an application, and who decides that, no, Marshall probably is not the best person to create application because it's just too easy for him, and we need someone.
You're too kind.
We need people that are product owners that are responsible for certain applications. We need different types of no-code developers with different skill sets, and there are more and more roles that you can incorporate depending on level of complexity, right? Because again, there is a big difference if you use no-code to automate, say, claim management process in insurance, which is a core process, or you want to, for example, manage your analysts. Like, for example, we have like ongoing conversations with analysts, and we recently created a new app to manage all our analysts, like you guys.
Why aren't we in your distribution list yet?
Yeah. So if you guys want to become a partner and sell it, so we can do that. But it's just much easier to build an app that tracks. Records. But yeah. So that's the point in regards to level of complexity, and that's why different roles should be involved in creating applications of different types and different level of complexity.
What I like very much is the aspect that you combine modular thinking with Lego brick building capability in using already existing bits and pieces and create them to something new. This is, for me, fascinating. And what I was asking is, to put it now blunt, plain German-like, who is your competition and who is a pain in the neck?
So, we don't think about our competition as a pain in the neck. To be honest with you, we are very friendly and open company. So we are not afraid of the competition, but also we're not thinking in that way. But
we are hugging them and you love them. Understood. That's fair enough.
Not that we love them or hug them, but there are two kind of categories of companies with whom we compete. So the first category, those are companies that are coming from CRM market, such as, for example, Microsoft or Salesforce, and to some degree even SAP, right? So they will need multiple applications to deliver the same stack, like depending on what type of use case we solve. And then there's also another type of competitors that are coming from more workflow automation and no-code space, like, for example, Pega or Appian. Again, I would not say that we compete a lot with them, but there's certainly an angle where we compete. And there are lots of situations when we compete with a very specific industry tailored solution that could be hundreds of those, right? So we, for example, we're automating a specific drug registration process for a life sciences company. Like there is a market of drug registration company software providers in this space, and so that's why it's a very use case specific, and which is fun because it allows us to connect with our buyers early in the journey, discover a business problem, and solve for this unique business problem. That's why a job in our, like, if you're a sales professional in Creatio, it's a fun job because it's not kind of repeat scenario. You can talk to multiple people, solving for multiple problems, and you're kind of getting as a good wine. The more you spend with the company, the more you spend in the industry, the better you become. So that's the overall concept.
This is exactly what you get as an information or in the conversation with your business partners, such as I had with Qualisoft, as I know Steffen quite well. And out of the back days from
sending him some love and peace. He will be listening to this.
Pleasure. It's just that I'm not probably reading every post of Thomas because there are not enough pictures in it, but I do my homework in the way that I wanted to have a clear view as from the business partner events you did in the last 2 years, which I was participating in. I found out that the partners you have are very, very enthusiastic. They are extremely committed. They are extremely creative. And such as knowing how the quality approach, not only in the name by Qualisoft is, but simply taking other solutions to the side and say, they offer us the benefit that we can create easy to customers' needs. And we are not doing a bespoke software, but we have the advantage of a solid solution which fits to another environment and is release safe. Yeah. And all that fascinating combination of not only getting services aboard, but have a customer for a longer time, loyal and happy on your end, is something which is magic. Yeah. And such is my feeling. You deliver also the capability of doing some magic. Yeah. And
yeah, that's we try, but actually you touched upon a very important point, Ralph. I think that we in Croatia we have this promise. We call it genuine care, and we genuinely care about our partners and customers, and that's the reason why you're getting the feedback from dear friend Stefan and his team, because like it's partially about the incredible technology we have and the technology we're really proud of, but partially because we as a business, we as like a combined personality of the business, we genuinely care about Stefan, about his team, and about making sure that they're successful. And we're going to this professional life together, and we're achieving some incredible success, and we celebrate the success. So this kind of a philosophy that allows us to grow our partner network very aggressively, and same applies to our customers. Our customers would be saying the same. And actually, the reason how we came up with this promise of genuine care is because we interviewed our partners and customers, and we are trying to understand our new messaging, and we kind of had all interviews, and all of them were talking about the same thing. So, and even though my marketing team didn't want to use, like, because genuine care just doesn't sound like a standard software, like enterprise software messaging, we decided to use it because that's who we are. That's part of our DNA. And then we are very serious about partners, and we are very partner friendly organization, and this comes from decisions that we make. This comes from engagement that we have with partners, and they are paying us back because it's difficult at some point of time to dedicate and commit to partners because you have less of control. You're giving up a lot of control because you don't control cycles, cultures, so some other things. But if you build up this partner-centric organization, we have an amazing individual. His name is Alex Danchak. He has been with us for 5 years. So he built this program from the ground up, and he created an impressive best-in-class organization. And this is the kind of outcome and result of his work that is based on this genuine care and genuine love to everything that partners do, and our desire to commit energy, time, and effort to align ourselves. Because by default, it's just a little bit more complex than with internal employees, but then it's much more fruitful and scalable and fun to do if you kind of overcome those challenges.
Love
Cool.
the notion of fun.
It's fun. No, it's fun because every time when I come to I come to a new country, I always have a partner and a customer there, and it's just it's cool, and they all like super engaged, and they want to work with you, and they want to develop a market, and then you ended up like you have some great customers in Vietnam, or you have some great customers in Indonesia, in Morocco, in Lebanon, in Germany, like in all those kind of countries. You're creating communities and user groups of Creatio fans, and it's a lot of fun.
Let me circle a little back. So I'm still struggling with the library.
Okay.
But a library needs an index, a catalog. So, and if you are getting into an efficient use and reuse of what is there, we somehow need this. We need a librarian in order to not cause a graveyard, which reminds me a lot.
That's not the association.
I love the graveyard. But this reminds me a lot of knowledge management, actually. In how far do you see a need for basically knowledge management technology being embedded in no-code/low-code technology?
A lot, because there are lots of layers of knowledge. So this problem can be solved from multiple angles. The big push in the market is what is called AI-assisted no-code development, like because all those libraries, like in a what is the best librarian? It's Google, right? So or Amazon, but the search engine behind Amazon is your best librarian. So probably sometimes you don't need a librarian as a person, but you need a way how to get to the content that you want to digest at this point of time. So that's why AI-assisted development is a big trend, and probably one of the top 3 trends in low-code and no-code development, when the system recommends, like first tries to understand what you're trying to achieve, collects knowledge and best practices from kind of your peers and similar to you organizations and professionals, and then guides you through those steps. Like if you want to create an application, those are the steps that you do. And by the way, those are the components and elements that you want to use to solve for a problem. So this is a big push from technology point of view, and from a knowledge, like organizational knowledge point of view. Of course, this methodologies that I was referring to, or say no-code development organizational program, needs include lots of different knowledge-related activities, starting from making sure that the team is up to date with evolving technology, because for example, in 1 year, the technology is changing a lot. So you need to make sure that you know that, or say same applies to marketplaces and some other components, down to various particular use cases and particular applications. So knowledge is a big part, and there is no surprise that no-code developers or like business people that can leverage no-code development are named as knowledge workers. Like it's kind of in its name.
So it's basically ingrained in the tools already.
It's like to put it sharp and short. So it should be embedded into the tool, and assisted development is a big trend. It should be embedded into overall program and methodologies that an organization should employ, because knowledge is a big part of the way how this can be distributed. Because again, if you know that, like if your system kind of is walking you through and suggesting, it's not enough for you to kind of coordinate the right cycle with your peers. It should be a program on an organizational level that will allow you to connect with the right people and kind of collaborate in a way you need to collaborate.
So now putting a thesis into the room, that means that knowledge management, supposedly right now, I think it's the bigger area right now, is swallowing up no code.
Like,
Just to yank your chain.
I would not say that, but it's your show. Like we went from a graveyard to knowledge to that. It
No,
kind of gets quite dramatic.
No, we are following the flow here. But actually, the serious question behind is, you say that low code and no code are converging. They are merging into one, and I really wouldn't disagree there. So, actually, I feel there will be quite a chasm between citizen developers that can do so much, and then sooner or later need to give something to the pro, who goes down to C++ or whatever is in demand at that time. So overall, and you said you positioned yourself already in the intersection of three areas. Meaning there probably is a conversion of so what I see. I mean, you don't do applications if you don't want to do a workflow. So maybe workflow management is converging into that as well. So if I'm looking at bot development platforms, hell, they can't do without no code or low code at least. Yeah. So how do you see this whole conglomerate of currently separate markets move? Will they implode or implode? No, they won't implode. Will they get into each other, or how will that move?
Well, I think that like as it happens with each market, it will go through categorization and unification, like we've seen in CRM. So right now, I believe there are 500 companies that claim that they have low code and no code capabilities. Of course, for this market, it's just way too many. So we expect this to be really consolidated, and then it will consolidate it based on markets and types of problems you solve. Is it enterprise or it's more kind of SMB? Are you like a level of complexity that you handle? Are you moving like a database from Excel to an application, or you are solving for a complex enterprise problem, or you're creating some complex enterprise app? So I think that categorization will certainly, and it already exists. Then secondly, it's all about like, is it a horizontal solution, or and what type of verticalization do you expect, and what type of specialization do you expect? There are lots of no-code solutions for a particular vertical or a particular type of problems that are being solved, right? For example, we are talking about like no code as enabler for customer related processes that we do a lot, and there's also some type of categorization. And of course, it will be lots of kind of mergers and acquisitions, and because market probably doesn't need 500 vendors, it needs a little bit less than that. And as it happened with CRM and some other markets, we'll go through consolidation and categorization. It's also there is a good chance that it will evolve into some new categories that we don't know now, but it's fine. I think that the problem that we are solving, it will be all the same. So how do we digitize our workflows and digitize our solutions as soon as possible and as quickly as possible, and by tapping into a big population of people that are not technical by nature? And in regards to the ways of deployment, there are three ways, and there are three kind of recognized ways, and some kind of variations of those, like pure no-code development, and then Fusion team. Fusion team is a combination of no-code developers and professional developers, and professional developers are kind of naturally coexist in that scenario, and then professional development track, right? I think that as we move to the future, we will have a much more clear way to recognize when we need to use a pure no code, when we need to use a Fusion team, and when do we need to use pure professional development. With this category, I believe it will get smaller and smaller and smaller, because number of scenarios where you need only professional development tools is relatively kind of small, and will be getting smaller, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I guess I have been a developer, and what's the main trait of a developer? You're lazy. That's why you code it. To do it only once, right? And why not being helped becoming lazy by avoiding a lot of the manual coding by just dragging and dropping, clicking and pointing, and well, that was the whole idea of the declarative development environments back in the 90s, right?
Yeah, and look, I also don't want this to be perceived that we, as if we're trying to push away developers. I think that we do need developers, and developers are solving very difficult problems that no one else can solve. And I personally saw so many incredible problems that were solved by developers by elegant and cool solutions. In the meantime, I probably don't need developers if we want to change a couple of fields, add a workflow, and create an application for ourselves if we have a clear vision of what we need to create. So that's why I think that we are creating a larger market. We're not kind of, how to say, moving into territory of professional developers, because think about those 500 million of applications. We'll have room for everyone.
Yeah, you already mentioned that being conservative. So basically what you're saying is, first, the IDCs of this planet are seriously underestimating it. And second, we don't even have a clue how big this will be.
Yeah, of course. So you go, my kind of marker is that you take a business leader, like any business leader that has a kind of practice thinking about their function and what they do, and you ask them, like, talk to me about automations that you need. Talk to me about applications that you need, and they will start like A, B, C. They will be. It will be so much stuff. And this is just one particular individual that needs all of that. Like you think about, like, for example, my peers with whom I discuss in different types of tasks, the first thing that they ask is how we can automate it. No one wants to kind of do those repeatable manual tasks. And if you multiply that by number of professionals that want to have meaningful careers and don't do this manual works, of course you'll end up with a lot of applications that we need to develop. And this not to mention about all the legacy that we need to move to the new digital era. Think about number of AS400s or like older versions of SAP, and like there's still lots of kind of stuff that has been developed in 90s and sometimes even in 80s that still kind of 70s that still operate in larger businesses. And I'm not talking about like 10 years from like ago. I'm talking about like decades ago. So like the amount of automation that we can consume and can bring to the table is incredible. Like imagine that you're using a phone from 90s. Probably you don't want to do that. And I don't think business users and organizations want to do that. They just don't have any other option. It's just super complicated to move from those systems. But if given a choice and given a freedom and a power to do so, they will choose something that is slick, easy, and friendly.
Little detour, as we are not known for being always on time. How much time do you have left?
Like I have probably 5-7 minutes left.
Okay, then from my perspective, last one, purely out of curiosity. So a lot, we already talked AI assisted development. In how far do you think we can get in the next, let's say, decade into a kind of an AI driven development? So basically I state my problem and the system gives me a solution.
I think we are not, like, technologically, I could not say that there are lots of, how to say, limitations to that, because currently it's probably more a matter of collecting the data and understanding what exactly do you need and making sure that this data is being sourced. But we do have predictions, right? We can have recommendation engines. We can, like, there are all sorts of different things that already exist, but putting them into context, that is like, if we are developing hundreds and thousands of different applications, to understand what Thomas needs is probably and consolidate and sort out the data that will represent this. That's probably the most complex issue, collecting and getting sense from the data. But I wouldn't be surprised if in 10 years from now, you kind of say to your, I don't know, watch, what application do you need? Yeah, it creates you an application, and then you kind of tweak it, adjust, and you move on. I always make this joke of our phones. My wife specifically, she does incredible pictures and photos using a phone. And I remember back in 25 probably years ago, my father was kind of going into this quiet dark room to produce like 12 photographs, and it took him it was an entire process, very similar to what we have now with development. This development is kind of, as Ralph mentioned, it's a magic. I need to go to a magic box to do some magic to come back and produce pictures. Now you can create a picture like anyone, like a kid that's 8 years old can create a picture that will be much better than what my father was producing, and he was spending a lot of time doing that. So I don't believe it will be very different with business applications. And if you think about that, right now we also see a merge of our professional lives and our specifically with recent events, right? So the border is not that clear. And why I'm using those fun applications like my phone, and I cannot use them in business. And now with new generation coming to board, that would be an expectation. So that's why it's kind of an inventable future.
Okay, famous last words. I already indicated it sort of in our cheat sheet. And now that I've just seen the cover of your phone, are the wristband of the watch that you have on your profile picture, as well as the cover of this phone, are these stock colors or are they custom?
No, actually,
because of the Creatio colors, right?
Those are Creatio colors, and I'm a big fan of Creatio and our team, and that's why when I buy stuff, I want it to be somehow associated with what I do. So that's what, hence my watch and some other things. So yes, if you can see through the Freedom release, our recent event, there are also lots of kind of mentions of in the outfit of Creatio colors, and that's the reason why we selected the orange, because we like orange. That's one of the reasons. It's just fun and optimistic and joyful color that we want to use.
Never underestimate the power of branding.
And the Netherlands, Oranje,
that was my favorite soccer team. Unfortunately, they were always strong, but they didn't have a good track record of winning recently.
If you just look to the upper right on the screen where we have the CRM Convo logo, you find that not only blue but orange, my friend.
Correct.
Okay, so in consideration of your time, thanks heaps for being here. This was big fun.
Thank you so much.
It was also enlightening, which is about as important. And well, if you ask me, I hope for a continuation. Someone
absolutely. So please do invite us, either myself or someone from our team. Happy to maintain those conversations. So thank you so much for being incredible hosts and for all your incredible questions.
Okay, so then let's go backstage. Thanks a lot to the audience.